Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
Let me ask you something. When was the last time you looked in the mirror, really looked, and felt good about what you saw? Not just, okay, not just acceptable for my age. Oh, good. Because here's what I think is really happening for a lot of you right now. It's not just about the lines on your face. It's not really about the gray hair or the softer skin or the way your body has shifted over the years. It's something deeper than that. It's this quiet, nagging fear that the world has started to look through you. That somewhere along the way, without anyone announcing it, you became invisible. And the cruelest part, society didn't take away your worth. It just stopped reflecting it back to you. And when the mirror stops confirming your value, when the world stops seeing you the way you once were seen, you start to wonder if maybe they're right. That is the wound I want to talk about today. Not wrinkles, not aging, but the story we've been handed about what it means to grow older as a woman. And why, with everything you know, everything you've survived, and everything you've built, you deserve an entirely different story. You are not a woman who has lived a small life. Think about what these hands have done. Think about who you have held together. Marriages, children, friendships, households, careers, grief. Think about the nights you didn't sleep because someone else needed you to. Think about the things you swallowed so that peace could survive in the room. You have been strong in ways that were never celebrated. Quietly competent in ways that were never promoted. Present for everyone else in ways that left very little room for you to ask the question, what about me? And now here you are. Maybe the children have grown. Maybe the marriage looks different or ended. Maybe the career you gave decades to has wound down, or the body that carried you through everything is asking for more rest than before. And instead of the world saying, look at her, look at what she's built, look at who she's become, you're handed anti-aging creams and suggestions to age gracefully, as if aging were something shameful that needed to be managed quietly, in private, without troubling anyone. I want you to know something, and I want you to really hear it. The pain you feel when you look in the mirror is not vanity. It is grief. It is a real, legitimate grief for a version of yourself the world rewarded, and the fear that now that version is gone, you might be gone too. But here is what psychology actually tells us about this moment in a woman's life. And it might surprise you. Here is why this hurts so much, and it is not your fault. From the time you were a little girl, the world taught you, through magazines, through television, through the way older women were spoken about in your own home, that a woman's value is tied to her youth, to her appearance, to being as desired. Psychologists call this objectification theory. It was developed by researchers Barbara Fredrickson and Tommy Ann Roberts, and what they found is that women, from a very early age, are taught to see themselves the way other people see them. Through an outside lens. Through a mirror that belongs to society, not to themselves. So when you look in the mirror and feel that quiet sting, that's not weakness. That is decades of conditioning doing exactly what it was designed to do. Your brain was trained to evaluate you the way the world evaluates you. And the world, for most of your life, evaluated women on youth and beauty. But here's the thing about conditioning. It can be rewired, thus not overnight, not easily. But it can be done, because conditioning is not truth. It is repetition. And you are old enough, wise enough, to know the difference between what is repeated and what is real. Think about the women in your life whom you have respected most deeply. Was it because of how they looked? Or was it because of how they made you feel? The way they spoke with certainty. The way they didn't flinch in hard conversations. The way their presence in a room changed the temperature of it. That is what real power looks like. And it does not live in the face of a 30-year-old. I want to offer you a different metaphor. You know how the most valuable things in the world, old leather, aged wood, antique linen, They don't look new, they look gaslit. And that is precisely what makes them precious. A brand new leather bag has no character. A 50-year-old leather bag that's been carried through airports and cities and hard winters. That has a story in every crease. Now, look at your face. Those lines at the corners of your eyes. Those are from laughter. Decades of it. Those are from squinting into the sun on summer days. From crying at your children's weddings. From laughing so hard at something ridiculous that the tears ran down your face. The softness in your jaw. That is what a face looks like after it has learned to stop holding everything so tightly. After it has finally, quietly, given itself permission to rest. There is a Japanese concept called wabi-sabi, the art of finding beauty in imperfection and impermanence. In Japanese pottery, there is a tradition called kintsugi, where broken pieces are repaired with gold. The philosophy is simple. The breakage and the repair are part of the history of the object. They are not hidden. They are honored. Your face is kintsugi. Every line is where you were broken and put yourself back together. Every silver hair is earned. The question is not whether you are beautiful. The question is whether you are willing to use the right definition of beauty. Here is something that rarely gets said out loud, and I think it needs to be. The reason society tries so hard to make older women feel invisible is not because they are invisible. It is because they are threatening. Think about it psychologically. A woman in her 20s is still trying to figure out who she is. She is often people-pleasing, approval-seeking, unsure of her own voice. A woman in her 60s. She has lived through enough to know what matters and what doesn't. She has stopped asking for permission. She has run out of patience for nonsense. She is harder to manipulate. Research in social psychology consistently shows that the people who are most difficult to control are the ones who are no longer motivated by social approval. And that describes so many women in this season of life. You've been through too much to be impressed by things that don't matter. You've lost enough to know what's actually worth keeping. That is not a liability. That is power. The world tries to sell you anti-aging products because a woman who accepts herself as she is, at any age, is a woman who doesn't need to be sold anything. And that is an uncomfortable kind of freedom that not everyone around you will celebrate. But you can celebrate it for yourself. There is a concept in psychology called the postponed self. The version of you that kept getting put aside because someone else needed something. You were going to take that art class. After the kids started school, you were going to travel. After things settled down, you were going to write, paint, rest, read, learn, explore. Later, after, and then later arrived. And maybe it looked different than you imagined. And maybe there was grief in that. And maybe you looked around and thought, is it too late? Have I missed it? I need to say this clearly. No, here is what neuroscience tells us about the brain after 55. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for wisdom, perspective, and measured decision-making, is at its most sophisticated. The emotional reactivity that made your 20s and 30s feel so turbulent. It has quieted. What's left is a kind of clarity that younger people are still working toward. There is a woman named Vera Wang who designed her first wedding dress at 40. Julia Child published her first cookbook at 49. Toni Morrison wrote of Beloved at 56. Grandma Moses began her painting career at 78. This is not the season after your story. This is a chapter of the story that only this version of you, the one shaped by everything you've lived, could possibly write. The postponed self is not dead. She has just been waiting for you to have enough of yourself left over to invite her in. What is one thing you have postponed? Keep that in mind. We'll come back to it. Brené Brown talks about the difference between fitting in and belonging. Fitting in, she says, is about changing yourself to be accepted. Belonging is about being accepted as you are. Here is the quiet tragedy for so many women in your generation. You were trained to fit in, to be agreeable, to soften your edges, to not take up too much space, to be liked, to be needed, to be useful, and to measure your worth by how well you performed those roles. And those roles were real. They mattered. The love behind them was real. But a role is not an identity, and being needed is not the same as being valued. The work of this season, the real, deep, spiritual work, is learning to belong to yourself, to have your own back, to look in the mirror and be your own witness, not the world's, not your family's, not your younger self's. What does belonging to yourself look like? It looks like saying no without a lengthy explanation. It looks like wearing what you love without wondering if it's appropriate for your age. It looks like choosing the friendships that fill you and quietly releasing the ones that drain you. It looks like spending a Tuesday afternoon doing something just because it brings you joy, not because it's productive, not because anyone asked you to, but because you are worth a Tuesday afternoon. Belonging to yourself is not selfish. It is the foundation from which every act of real love and real generosity flows. You cannot keep giving from an empty place. You know that by now. You've tried. This is not the season to keep trying that approach. This is the season to be replenished. I want to leave you with something. There is a letter that a 90-year-old woman wrote to her younger self. And in it, she said something that has stayed with me. She said, "I wish I had known that the years I spent worrying about how I looked were years I could have spent being magnificent." Seh, you still have years. Not the same years you had before, different ones. Quieter perhaps, deeper certainly. Years where the noise of other people's expectations has finally begun to settle, and underneath it, you might, if you get very still, hear something you haven't heard clearly in a very long time. Your own voice. Not the voice that managed everything. Not the voice that soothed everyone. Not the voice that said, "I'm fine," when you weren't. But the real voice. The one that knows what you love. The one that knows what you believe. The one that has been watching everything, processing everything, and holding more wisdom than you have ever been given credit for. That voice is not fading. It is finally, after all this time, getting the space to speak. Your wrinkles are not signs that you are running out. They are signs that you have lived, that you showed up, that you did not disappear when things got hard, that you stayed present through all of it. The joy and the grief and the ordinary Tuesdays and the impossible years. You are not past your prime. You are in a different kind of prime. One that is less about being seen and more about seeing clearly. Less about being chosen and more about choosing yourself. And this, right here, right now, is not the end of your story. It is the chapter where you finally become the main character. Before you go, I want to ask you to do one small thing. If something in this video touched you, if you felt seen in a way you haven't felt in a while, I want you to scroll down to the comments and write these 4 words. Here I am reclaiming my peace. That's it, those 4 words. Because here's what that does beyond the algorithm. Beyond this channel, it is an act of declaration. It is you saying out loud to yourself and to every other woman who reads it, I am choosing myself. I am not disappearing. I am reclaiming what is mine. And if you are watching this and you are struggling, if this season of life feels heavier than you expected, I want you to know you are not alone. This community is full of women who know exactly what you mean, even when the words are hard to find. Drop your comment below. Tell me what resonated. Tell me what you're reclaiming. I read every single one. And if this video reached someone you love, a sister, a friend, a mother, share it with her. Because some messages need to be heard, and sometimes we need someone else to find them for us first. Subscribe if you haven't already, because every week we go to these real, tender, important places together. And until next time, be gentle with yourself. You have earned that.